Happiness through curiosity on TRS Clips. I think India is actually becoming really healthy now. You're familiar with Ram Ram Bhai Sarya ne. That culture has reached India. Like, the interiors of India, people are much more concerned about health, which is why these kind of conversations are interesting for the end user.
Nice.
But there's still a lot of education required out there, scientific education related to your health.
Correct.
And also I'm at that age now where we have to think about things like cancer and aging and all these other lifestyle related issues.
Correct.
So let's go back to that, sir. You spoke about elevated glucose levels and elevated cholesterol levels. It's happening mainly because Indian diets are not balanced.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? Even in India.
Even in India.
We eat too much carbohydrate.
Correct.
That's effectively what it is.
Too many carbohydrates, and if you look at it, and we do research on gut bacteria, right? So we that's what I do. I was involved in mice research. I'm a practicing gastroenterologist, even though people think that I'm a full-time YouTuber. So what we do is we actually go to the research lab, and all these chuas there, 2 groups of mice, and we do research. You'll be amazed about the amount of research findings that we are seeing, that the gut bacteria is the underlying problem for everything.
What do you mean everything?
You name a problem: mental health, gut bacteria; cancer, gut bacteria; obesity, gut bacteria. In general.
Let's go into the ABCs. What is gut bacteria?
So when we say gut, people think that it is stomach most of the times. So it is not stomach. It's mainly the small intestine and large intestine. You will not believe that every person, for you and me, we have 100 trillion bacteria. 100 trillion. The world population is only 8 billion. Okay? And even 100 trillion is 1 followed by 14 zeros. And the unique aspect is this 1 followed by 14 zeros bacteria is completely unique to you and to me. It is like a fingerprint, and nobody can ever replicate it at all. Okay, and this is something that you have been feeding right from when you were born.
100 trillion, you said?
100 trillion.
Okay.
Okay, it's completely lined up. Imagine that it is from your oral cavity all the way to your anal orifice, like 100 trillion firewalla cracker in Diwali. It's being arranged like so close.
Okay. So effectively, you are the god for the bacteria inside you.
You are the god. You are the god, and that's why they call that as a second brain.
So there's a whole universe inside you.
It's completely different. It's like a Marvel universe over there.
Why is it called second brain?
So because all these bacteria needs to be monitored. Okay, whether you're getting good bacteria or bad bacteria, what is happening? Whenever you eat, for example, you serve me nuts and cashews now, right? So when I eat cashews, the bad bacteria and the good bacteria has to interact and then say, okay, this is good for me or not. So it's a constant monitoring going on.
What do you mean interact?
So the good bacteria and bad bacteria aligning the intestine constantly monitor what you're eating. Okay, and that secretes chemical mediators right there along the wall of the intestine, and that chemical molecule seep through the intestinal wall, goes into the brain, and makes you choose what you are doing.
Okay, I'm trying to understand this better. So please correct me wherever I'm saying something wrong. By good bacteria, you mean things that are actually beneficial for your health, beneficial for your gut, probably help you digest food better.
Correct.
By bad bacteria, do you mean germs of some sort?
No, everything is germ. So the concept is that these bacteria, even though always we have blamed bacteria as a bad thing, right? Infection, we give antibiotics and we don't want bacteria, but that's not true. Throughout from ancestors' life, we have had a symbiotic relationship with bacteria. What we mean by that is we need them, they need us.
They live inside us and we need them in order to digest our food.
Correct, which we are not given genes at birth by God for not digesting certain food particles like complex carbs.
Okay.
So for example, I'll tell you an example. So let's say that you are eating a complex carb. Okay, simple sugar. So let's say, having a maida biscuit, you eat it, it goes into your stomach, acid being secreted. So there is no organisms in the stomach that much because it's all acidic. Then it goes into your small intestine. So the small intestine is the site of absorption. So it absorbs everything. Oh, good. I love simple glucose. Oh, I love biscuit, everything. Good. And then when the biscuit goes down to the large intestine, there is nothing for the bacteria to eat. Bacteria doesn't feed on simple sugar. So bacteria, then what it does, it starts biting the wall of the small intestine and large intestine.
Ooh.
Because it needs food to live. So when you are creating a disruption in that barrier, that is where the problem is happening. That is right at the molecular level. We are looking at the state-of-the-art heart attack device that we are inventing, right? But the bottom line problem was at the lining of the intestines. And that is why they say it is the second brain, because all these nerve supplies talk to the primary brain as well.
Got it.
And then it makes you do a decision. Let's say you want to eat this. Maybe it's not you. It's your bad bacteria that wants it.
Let's talk about the nervous system a little bit. Basically, your brain, your spinal cord, and then your entire nervous system is kind of made of the same nervous tissue.
Correct.
Nerve tissue.
Correct.
Are you saying that your gut has more nerves connected to it?
Yes, gut has something called enteric nervous system. This is called central nervous system, and the gut has enteric nervous system, and those neurons are sometimes even more powerful than your first brain.
Why?
Because they constantly interact. It's a two-way communication. The information goes from here, and the brain sends a communication over here and make sure that, okay, so this food is good for us. Let's make it hold for longer. Let's absorb all these nutrients. And this food is bad for us. Okay, let's just excrete it as soon as possible. You will not believe how much amount of impulses that is happening in that small connection.
Basically, when Virat Kohli is playing a cover drive, he's played that cover drive so many times in his life and perfected it. Which is why when it actually happens in an international game, it happens like a machine. It happens automatically.
Correct.
But how often does Virat Kohli have to play a cover drive versus how often does Virat Kohli have to eat? That nervous pathway which allows him to play a cover drive is very well worked because he's a professional athlete.
I see.
But the nervous pathway for food in a human being is so much more important.
Correct.
Like food and eating is one of the most central aspects of human life. That's probably why the body has created such a strong nervous pathway between the gut and the brain.
Yes.
Because it's such an active part of our life.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Please correct me where I'm wrong. I'm just trying to understand.
No, you're right. I tell an analogy. It's like, in Bhagavad Gita, I would say our gut is Lord Krishna and our brain is Arjuna.
Really? That?
It's that big. Because our gut has its own dharma. And if we replace the Lord Krishna chakra with parotas, then Arjuna, Lord Krishna will tell Arjuna that some adharma is going on in the gut. You need to fight against your own body. It's how deep that is. It has to be a smooth, transient connection. And the most important thing is, it's not something that happens in the middle of your life or something like that. It happens right when you are born out of your mother's vagina. Vaginal delivery.
Do you think that a neuroscientist or a neurosurgeon would also say the same thing?
Neuroscientists always say that, brain is the biggest thing because, it has a master plan. Our gut might not be able to do that kind of master plan like brain. But the gut has a stronger potential to influence the brain in terms of your decision making. For example, so let's say that you're cravings for something, right? I was addicted to dairy milk. The reason that I was addicted to dairy milk is because whenever I eat dairy milk, my bacteria in my intestines is growing according to what my dairy milk wants.
Oof.
Right? So in due course of time, there is no good bacteria at all. Then that bad bacteria keeps on multiplying and it secretes dopamine right at the junction of the intestine. And that dopamine pierces the wall, gets into the blood, goes into the brain, secretes dopamine, and I feel that craving satisfaction. Then what I do, I crave for even more. So this is a vicious cycle. And I keep mentioning that this is something that I did to my body on a due course of time. It didn't happen overnight or it didn't happen a month or two.
Okay. So much to explore here. But let's go back to good bacteria and bad bacteria.
Correct.
So your good bacteria is there in your gut since childhood?
Since when you're born. So I'll take a minute to explain this. So you take 2 deliveries. Okay. One baby is born through normal vaginal delivery. And the other baby is born through a C-section. Okay. And we did research to find out which baby has a good bacteria, right? So when they are born, there is so much real estate because there is small intestine is like 22 feet long, large intestine is 5 feet long. There is so much real estate, fresh. There is no microbes, nothing. When the baby is born through vaginal delivery, it swallows the normal vaginal bacteria that goes into the stomach that creates that triggering cascade response so that all the good bacteria gets the first place.
Damn.
The same thing if you go to cesarean section, when you take that baby stool specimen and look at the microbiota, they have only the skin microbes of the mom when we are taking it out. And part of the microbes is based on who's taking the baby out, like the people who are handling the baby.
You mean the gynecologists?
The gynecologists, the caregivers, and the environmental bacteria more than the normal vaginal bacteria. So I'm not saying the C-section is bad. So please don't take that as the example over here. But what I'm trying to say is it starts right from the birth. Okay. And then, there are multiple studies also showing that, if you look at kids who are born through C-section and you follow them over time, the likelihood of obesity is slightly increased in patients who are delivering with C-section. Okay. And this is a very controversial finding where some studies have refuted it, some studies have supported it. But bottom line is their microbiota, their gut bacteria is definitely slightly different than the normal one.
For life.
Unless they change by implementing good gut health techniques during the process, during the growth.
Which is dietary.
Dietary, exposure to, exposure to dirt itself.
Okay.
I mean, that's a different story. We'll talk about it as well.
We'll come to that because that's actual call to actions.
Correct.
We can teach people through the show.
Yes.
Okay. I want to say something about exercise. Everyone has this idea in their head that, it's so difficult. But the truth is there is an exercise format that your body and mind will like automatically. For some people, it's dance. For some people, it's weight training. For some people, it's
running.
For some people, it's hatha yoga. For some people, it's sports. For so many people, it's sports.
Correct.
But you just need to take that deep dive into whatever it is.
Correct.
In that first month. Push yourself for 1 month. It'll help you through the rest of your life.
Correct.
Because hear these conversations. Movement exercise is that important. You have to prioritize it. Literally, the worst mistake I've done in my entire life was pre-age 16, didn't focus enough on exercise. And post-age 22, prioritized money and fame over health. Maintained my health for the sake of how I looked. But only now when I've switched into religiously playing sports, is everything getting fixed in my life. My mental health is so much better. I'm so much happier as a person. I sleep so much better. I look so much better. I feel so much better.
Nice.
But you have to push yourself. Find that social group. Begin weight training, begin sports, begin something. If you can, then ideally do weight training, do a lot of stretching and play a sport. The combination of these in different proportions depending on your life can really help you, but at least do one of them, if not all three. Now let's get back to good bacteria and bad bacteria.
So just piggybacking on the point is that exercise also modulates the gut bacteria. If you do exercise, the likelihood of the good bacteria is more compared to and then decreasing the content of the bad bacteria.
I think when it comes to health, it boils down to the basics always, sir.
Basics.
That exercise, eat clean, you'll be all right.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. People overcomplicate diets nowadays. People have too many deep logics about diet, and you'll often see that the people who are not very healthy complicate diets a lot.
Correct.
I've seen this so much, especially with the older generation. They have either not lived in a healthy way for a long time or I have just discovered health. Then they'll say, no, you need to eat this. Don't eat this in this way at this time.
Correct.
But the truth is just eat clean, eat raw, eat organic. You'll be okay. We'll come to that later.
Yes.
Let's get back to good and bad bacteria. What is bad bacteria? Is it like the bacteria that you get by drinking unclean water? I'm assuming.
No, not really. Not really. That is the really bad bacteria. Okay. So let's just classify this. So let's take Marvel Universe, right?
Sure.
So we have Iron Man, Hulk, Spider-Man, all these are good guys. And we have the Thanos. Okay. And Thanos also have these small bad guys associated with him. Our body will recognize Thanos and then will make sure that Thanos is not being activated. Okay, so that is taken care of by the immune system lining the intestines. So let's say you are eating a pav bhaji and it is contaminated. It goes inside and they know, oh, it is Thanos. Okay, so let's just stimulate the immune response, and then it creates a cascade of events and they fight against Thanos and Thanos is done. And that's where you have like 2 to 3 days of fever, you have diarrhea, you have nausea, vomiting, and then 3-4 days after, you're all good. Because all this immune system doesn't happen with your brain. It happens at the lining of your small intestine and large intestine. It's called Peyer's patches. And
are you talking about just fighting dietary germs or anything?
Dietary germs is the main thing, because that's the pathogenic oral ingestion of that bad bacteria. The same concept happens when you are exposed to, let's say, COVID virus or any other pulmonary lung bacteria. The same thing happens within the lungs, fighting against the bacteria. This is for an oral thing that I'm talking about.
Okay, got it.
And that is the baddest of the bad, right? But what happens is, because of our dietary style, okay, so let's say that we don't have enough fiber in our diet. Okay, remember I told you that the bacteria needs fiber. Okay, so let's say a baby is born through vaginal delivery, has a very good gut bacteria. How do we preserve that gut bacteria throughout? Is by just giving them fiber. If you have a lot of fiber, which is including fruits, vegetables and everything, then all this Iron Man, Hulk and Spider-Man keeps growing and all these bad guys keeps coming down. Then this good group will take care of you for the rest of your life. They will fight against any kind of bad guys. Okay. But what is happening during this industrialization in the last like 10-15 years mainly, this thing has gone down with all this artificial processed foods and everything. High calorie, high fat, low protein, low fiber. And this thing goes down and this thing goes up. This gut bacteria is malleable, which we can change it. But we need to feed it properly. If we feed bad things, the bad bacteria will grow. If we feed good things, good bacteria will grow. So this is a constant seesaw play that we are trying to adapt so that we can lead a longer lifetime.
Okay. But you spoke about how good bacteria and bad bacteria interact. You said the absolute villainous bacteria is germs, like things you get which will give you infections.
Infection, like Salmonella typhoid is an example of a baddest of the bad bacteria.
But you're saying inherently in your gut, there is also something called bad bacteria.
Inherently, correct. You get a mix of both good and bad gut bacteria.
And that bad bacteria is there because of our modern day dietary lifestyles.
Correct. And also exposure to environment. But if your good gut bacteria is more, it has the capability to control this environment.
Okay. It's not 50-50.
It's not 50-50, no.
So in a very healthy person, someone who takes care of their body, etc. Say someone who's living also outside a city. Rural India, eating very healthy, eating clean, vagera. What is the proportion?
We did a research on ancestral living. Current modern day living, there is a tribal community in Tanzania where they has a Hadza tribals. We did so much research on the stool microbiota over there. They have 1,600 diverse bacteria because they don't grow any animals. They don't grow any farm vegetables or anything like that. They hunt. That's where their general thing is. And they are successful in their hunting 1 in every 20 days. And in between what they eat plants, complex tubers, beets, nuts, fruits and tubers, where the complex carbs is so much, and coming back to the previous point that we discussed, that it reaches the large intestine and they are feeding the good bacteria. Keep going. So whenever you eat something, there are 2 things. You feed yourself first, then you need to feed your gut bacteria. So when you look at them, it's 1,600. When we did the research on a common American man, it's only 1,200. And this thing is passed on to generations. We have lost 400 good bacteria and there is no way to revive it. And my real scare is this thing is passed on to generations, and if it's like deforestation. Okay, so we are killing trees and goes to the next generation, 25% is gone. We're killing trees, 50% is gone. There's no way to revive the trees, right? But with gut bacteria, if you are conscious enough and then replant the trees, replant the gut bacteria, it will be such a wonderful thing that we are doing for our future generations.
There's actually my favorite YouTube channel is this channel called Best Ever Food Review Show, where he goes to different parts of the world and he also shows the culture of the place.
Oh, nice.
So he had done a pretty graphic video, I think, with the Hadza tribe. It's not an easy watch, especially for vegetarians. It's something intense, but what you said, that they get a successful kill once in 20 days.
Correct.
So in those 20 days, they're just exploring, collecting things and eating, which brings me to the process of evolution. Because they say that according to science, archaeologists claim that between 2 to 3 lakh years ago, we've discovered that, that was the first time Homo sapiens roamed the earth. And I've spoken to some archaeologists who also believe that we say it's 2 to 3 lakh years ago because that's the last kind of existing bone fossil we found of humans from that phase. It possibly could be longer than that. Okay. But my point is that we know for a fact that only in about 10,000 BC or so did we really start settling down in villages, etc. I love history. Now 2 lakh minus 10,000 years or minus even 20,000 years, okay, to be safe, is 1,80,000 years. That means for 1,80,000 years, all of us were living like the Hadza tribe. All of us were hunter-gatherers.
Correct.
And our bodies are used to that.
Absolutely.
When nature has fed us, helped our good bacteria, and today we find ourselves waiting for a burger in McDonald's or sitting in Pizza Hut and waiting for that pizza to come to you.
I was about to say, there is no diabetes, obesity, heart disease in Hadza. How come? And they eat honey. People say that, you don't eat honey because honey is like rich in carbs and everything. But they have developed that gut bacteria propensity that they're able to balance it. And then they are the only way the increases of communicable diseases and very decreased non-communicable diseases.
Yeah, one of the most beautiful and impactful books I read in my life was *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari. He actually draws out a picture of what hunter-gatherer life was like. And one of the key features was that the world was your buffet. How you go to a buffet and you see different foods. Actually, you go out in a forest, you'll see mushrooms growing. You'll see fruits on trees. You'll see some leaves that are edible. Then you'll hunt a little bit. You'll get protein from there. You'll see something else. You'll eat that. You'll see raw nuts growing. You'll see some other kind of berries. And you're exploring so much that you're actually taking the best bits from nature. That's what our bodies are meant to do.
Absolutely.
And while exploring, you're also working your body because of movement.
Absolutely.
That's actually what your bodies are built to do. But again, that's not practical because even the people who are watching or listening to this podcast are sitting in their car driving or sitting at home. And this is our life now. We're in a concrete jungle. So all we can do is think about the future.
No, absolutely.
And the present also, which is why I want to bring you back to 2023, sir. Do you have anything to say about what I just said?
So regarding the Hadza tribe,
wherever you want to take
the other thing that they did was, if let's say they have a hunt, they finished eating at sunset because there's no light. They have to finish eating at sunset. They have to have a heavy meal together. And then they had so much melatonin that you would ever think of. And they had a very good night's sleep overnight. All the growth hormone, every cell in our body has a sleep-wake cycle. Similar to how you go to bed at night and you wake up in the morning, every cell has a sleep-wake cycle. Active digestive hormones is from sunrise to sunset. And the trigger is the sunlight. Your sunlight comes in the morning and then you wake up and then all the digestive hormones are active. And then at sunset, it dies down. For example, you eat a samosa. It goes inside your stomach. It needs to be secreted by acid, digested by the acid, right? How is it doing it? The cells are opening. The projections comes in, pour the acid, digest the food, and then come back. So who is going to close that cell? You need a repair growth hormone that needs to come in the middle of the night when you are sleeping for at least 7 to 8 hours. So when melatonin is secreting, you're having good night's sleep, they're repairing all the stomach damage, and they're ready for the next day.
Basically boils down to the basics again. Eat clean, exercise, sleep well.
Coming back to your point of in modern day life, we cannot do this physical activity and eating this clean, but eating early can be done. Relatively, if you can put a conscious effort into it.
While the sun is out.
Yes, eat while the sun is out, and when the sun sets, and that's it. Your dinner time should be done. And I have a wonderful research study to share regarding this.
Oh.
So I was involved in a research study where we gave pizza and burger example to a small group of mice from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., sunrise to sunset. And then we gave the same pizza and burger from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. to a different group of mice. 3 months later, we looked into what is happening in this group. And for our surprise, there was no weight gain at all in both. But a most important thing is when these mouse were fed between 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., their cholesterol levels went up, their glucose level went up, and their insulin resistance went up. And when you follow this for 6 months later, that's where the weight gain came in. So when somebody is putting on weight, the damage has been done before. And when you just revisit the feeding time, all the weight is gone. And that was an eye-opener for me. And then I started using that technique on my patients with fatty liver. And fatty liver is fat deposit in the liver whenever there is belly fat. And I said, you can eat whatever you want to start with, okay? I know you're very busy, you're a busy professional, you cannot do all this thing I'm trying to say, but at least, try to eat your dinner by 7:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. maximum. This is a wonderful technique. I think I lost weight, so much weight and everything. And then I started doing that on myself. Then I lost weight. Then I started imparting that to all my YouTube subscribers, and I see this big change in the pictures that they are saying before and after. And I think that this is not the holy grail, but I think this is one of a very sustainable method, which can be easily applied in your modern day practice if you just put this thought process together as a family.
Yeah. The reason I get bored of giving people diet advice through the podcast or through my old fitness and health videos, like BeerBiceps started off as a fitness and health channel.
Correct.
I got bored because actually it's really simple. Yeah. And I'm just going to be repeating the same things again. So there's a lot of people who are probably unhealthy right now listening to this podcast and taking down notes. But the truth is they've already heard all these things in their life. They've just not followed it. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to TRS Clips for more.